Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to Brunch with Bigfoot, Michigan Rob. I am, of course, your host, BMR. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday afternoon. It's 1 o'clock where I'm at, wherever you're at. Thanks for coming on in. I got a great show. GEMMA JADE joins us. We're going to kind of cover a lot of different subject matters, including a few of her books you can find on Amazon. All of Gemma's links are in the description of this show, so go check her out afterwards or even during, because they're all posted right there for you. If this is your first time here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Michigan Rob on YouTube, Texas Front Porch on YouTube, and the Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast on YouTube. And also, Gemma does have a channel. It's simply called GEMMA JADE. So very easy to look her up and subscribe. You can find us on iHeartRadio and Spreaker, wherever podcasts are found. Thank you so much for that. If you like the show and help support what we do around here, the Super Chat's open. The Super Chat is a great way to help support everything that we do. I do appreciate that. Also, you can become a BMR pirate. Join today. You get a picture of me with my bandana next to your name in chat. Join the couple hundred now that are members. And also, I got to do mention this. Tex coined this not too long ago. Tex has memberships, and so do the Booze. So if you collectively join all three, you become a paranormal porch pirate. Not suggesting you would steal from somebody's porch, which happens, but you know what I'm saying on that one. So come on, check us out. We've got a lot of things going on. And we're getting really excited because we've got a conference coming up. And it's June 7th and June 8th. We have got the Alabama Bigfoot Conference, June 7th and June 8th, in, of course, Anniston, Alabama, at the Performing Arts Center. Tex Weston is our master of ceremonies. Speaking at the conference, Barton Nunnally, Daryl Denton, the Blondes and the Booze, Jason McLean, Greg Ogles, Martin Groves, yours truly, BMR. Tickets are cheap, guys. $30 online, $35 at the door. You won't find a cheaper venue anywhere. I guarantee you that. Go to BamaBigfootConference.com for details. It's brought to you by Sidekicks. Sidekicks Paranormal, not Side Chicks, like I was saying a couple months ago. June 7th, we have a meet and greet at the Western Sizzler House or something like that. I always screw that one up. Our reservation is booked, but we won't turn you away. Neither will the restaurant. So check us out. That's going to be a great time. Looking forward to it. Also, thanks to everybody for buying my book, Bigfoot Michigan Rob Presents True Cryptid Encounters, Book 1. When Amazon does come calling, leave a review. It helps analytics. Book 2 is coming out end of July. So get this copy while you can before the introduction of Book 2. So thanks for that. With that being said, one other last piece of business, as you know, Texas Front Porch, Mondays, 8 o'clock to 11, kicks off with Daniel Diva Dimension. Then it moves into Tex and Brandy. Tuesdays at 9 o'clock is Beyond BMR with myself and Krista from the Blondes and Booze. Wednesday night live, Barton Nunnally in Humanoids. That's 9 o'clock. Thursday afternoon, right back here, Brunch with Bigfoot Michigan Rob, 1 o'clock in the East. Thursdays, I think it's Thursday night now, right, Tex? You'll have to correct me. I think our Paranormal World with Monica Rollins, I think that's on at 10 or 11 in the East. You'll have to correct me on that. But that night for sure, though, the Blondes and Booze are on at 9 o'clock in the East. If you need more woo with the Booze, they come back on Friday. The Blondes, the Booze, and the Woo Fridays. Sundays, Truth or Tin Foil. Subscribe to them. Brandy and Randy break down videos and photography of alleged hauntings, Bigfoot, paranormal stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And then Tex, Infamous Minds at 7 o'clock in the East. True crime breakdown. So it's always a lot of fun. That's a mouthful to get out all that stuff, everybody. With that being said, I'm going to bring up Tex. What's up, partner?
Going on, man?
Man, you know what's going on, man? Beautiful day here. The sun is high. The sun is high, Tex. I got to get out there and finish up some lawn work. Yeah, we meet again. So we meet again.
Oh, man. Damn it, it was Slim Jim.
Yeah, there you go. I don't know where this is coming from, but it sounds pretty strange. But thanks, Tex.
Oh,
Oh
Lord.
man, yeah, I hear you.
That is the
Well,
Western Sizzling, by the way.
Western
Um,
Sizzling, and I think
Western Sizzling.
I also screwed
And
up Monica's show. What time is
it,
that?
it has got to the point to where you're just having too much fun with it now, Rob.
I know I am. I kind of know where we're going. I play with the audience, and I know it irritates you, but now you're used to it.
Yes, Monica's show, Our Paranormal World, did move to Wednesday nights, not Thursday nights. Wednesday
Oh
night. No,
wow, see,
you're right.
okay,
Thursday
thank,
nights. I can't even get it right. Thursday nights at 10 p.m. Central.
very good. So we got that little bit of business taken care of. Gem, it only takes us 8 minutes before we ever bring up the guests. Sometimes we've gone 10, 12 minutes. I got to keep it under 10. With that being said, I'm going to bring up the lovely GEMMA JADE.
I've never had so much fun backstage.
Yeah,
That's
well,
awesome.
we try to have a lot of fun on the show. You can't be serious all the time, right?
No, absolutely not with what we do. I definitely agree. There's no room. Well, there's room, but not all the time.
A little bit.
There's a time and a place, right?
Yeah, there you go.
Time and a place.
I love it.
That's well said, Tex. Tex always comes up with a nice quibble here and again. So thanks for that, Tex.
Yeah, every once in a while when I can get my tongue that's not wrapped around my eye teeth so I can see what I'm saying, I come up with some pretty cool stuff.
Oh boy, eye teeth, little dog man teeth going on. I guess, eh? I don't know.
I have them. I have literal fangs on my bottom. And it's funny because they're crooked and they cut my tongue up, but they're so pointy and sharp. They're like vampire teeth.
Oh, wow.
I don't even have to wear them. When I wear them, they just right out. It's awesome. I love vampires. I'm like, maybe I am one.
Oh, yeah. I love vampires too. We could talk all day on vampires, but yeah. We're already off kilter here, but so thanks for coming on, first of all, Gemma. And by the way, I do have all your links in this show, this video. So all the books that you sent me are there. Your channel's there. So people, if this is everyone's first time watching Gemma or listening to Gemma, why don't you just give everybody a brief little rundown about what got you involved with all this high weirdness?
High strangeness, as I call it. So my name is GEMMA JADE. I'm from northern New Jersey, and I was basically born into this. I've been seeing spirit ever since I was very little. When I was, very little girl, it caused some issues in school. The teachers always told my parents I was playing in the corner, talking to myself. And I had no idea because there were kids there. They were just spirit who I guess were. As I grew up, it kind of, it took me till I was about 14 to really understand that I was seeing spirits and the dead. And as I got older, tried to avoid it, tried to ignore it, tried to not be quote unquote the weird girl. And then about 5 years ago, I was like, you know what? I'm going to embrace being the weird girl. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to help as many people as I possibly can while I'm embracing it. So I got on YouTube and started writing books and just talking about the paranormal, mainly spirit. And then I moved into ufology and, the cryptid stuff. And now I just have a really good time. I'm also an oracle and I read oracle. Oracle cards, I should have said. Read
oracle. I may have messed up by inviting you onto the true crime show because I can already tell when you and Danielle get together, I'm not going to get a word in edgewise.
Yeah, probably not. I never stop talking.
Well, one, y'all could be sisters, and two,
really,
yeah. And number two, you're into the same stuff. So yeah, it's going to be an
Yeah,
interesting show. For
that's
sure.
cool though. It's going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
Like I said, it's always a lot of fun doing these shows. You know, they show you're kind of fizzling out on us a little bit. I don't know if it's the internet or what, but you're still fine. We can still hear you. I'm just a little FYI there.
Okay. The
So
solar flares have been giving me a lot of Wi-Fi issues, but let me turn off my Wi-Fi and some other devices. That might help.
I mean, you know, so far we it's not going bad. So while you do that, I'm going to ask you, what was okay, you mentioned, you know, the weird girl in school growing up. What was one of the first things that you experienced in your life that said, "Holy cow, I don't know what's going on here"? What kind of freaked you out and put you on your path? Like, was it seeing the dead, talking to the dead, or what? It could be whatever the first inkling you had.
Okay, so like I said, I spoke to spirit my whole life, but I never really understood what was happening, what was going on. There was one particular moment I'll never forget. I was about 14. So when I was younger, I remember like one of my birthday parties, my parents had like Mickey and Minnie there. And I remember, I'm an 80s baby. I remember Ricky Ricardo was there. And I remember thinking that was weird because we were watching I Love Lucy and I never said anything, but I never forgot like what he was wearing. And he was like, it was the weirdest thing, right? Sounds so random. Then when I was 14, my mom and I were going through old pictures and she pulls out a picture of her father who passed when I was 3 months old, who like I was his favorite. My mom's the favorite. And I look and same exact outfit, looks like Ricky Ricardo. And my mom's like, oh, that's your grandfather. And I remember that's when it kind of, I started asking her questions about like his passing and stuff. And then it's not like I didn't know it was spirit, but I didn't, for a long time, I thought everybody could do it. Just nobody talks about it. But that was the moment when I was like, oh, wow. And that was right around the time when like the Craft movie came out too. And where I lived in a town that was 1 square mile, it was very stigmatized. So I did try to kind of keep it all in, except for like when I was alone, I would hang out with spirit more than I would hang out with actual people.
Wow. Yeah, you know, I know you're going to say something, Tex. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, I am because because we were kind of talking backstage, and there's you have a problem with if you watch something or you're really interested in something, you start getting visitations.
Yes, that's a big thing for me. Why people are always like, "Oh, Gemma, you know, you stopped covering true crime." The reason I stopped covering true crime, guys, is this is something that's happened my whole life, but I thought being more trained, more of a professional, I'd be able to I learned how to block out a lot of the energies. If I watch a documentary, for example, Who Killed Tupac and Biggie, I got a visitation from Biggie. And I know that sounds crazy, but if I watch something on John Benet Ramsey, Lacey Peterson, the Black Dahlia, I do get visitations and right in my room, and I'm getting older. So needing blood transfusions, things like that. They feed off of you, whether they're cool dead or, you know, horrible dead, horrible for lack of a better word. They are feeding off of my energy. So I do get sick. So the true crime stuff I try to stay away from personally. But that is the reason why, yes, I will get visitations. I see them everywhere I go.
I got to throw this at you really quick. And I don't like always talking about myself on my own show, but it's like, but when something resonates with me, though, I have to always ask, and I know that you know a lot about this. I used to watch creepy 2 o'clock. Thanks, Tex, for that. I used to watch like more of like demonic type program. You know, I don't believe in no, I believe in God, but I'm infatuated with like exorcisms and demonic stuff. So I watch it usually late at night, and I've been doing it. Especially now that we do what we do, you got to research everything and watch everything you can and read, right? But then I started suffering what I guess is sleep paralysis, but I'm not so sure because all of a sudden I would get paid visits by weird things coming down my hallway, like mist, and I can't yell. I'm awake. I'm still watching TV, and it would circle my chair, and I'm paralyzed, and I know I'm awake. I know I'm awake. At least I think I am. And then I snapped out of it. It happened 2 or 3 more times, and someone suggested to me, start saying, the Our Father prayer if it happens, and I started saying that, and it went away, which suggested to me maybe I was getting visited by something demonic, or was it just sleep
Yeah.
paralysis? So again, that's me, kind of resonating what you had said, because I still to this day don't know what that is, but it hasn't happened in a long time. So I always have to throw that out there, and maybe you kind of an idea what that is.
Yeah. So, in a few of my books, so I did write a whole book, Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis and Beyond, that talked about the correlation between the two, and how I believe sleep paralysis is connected. But on my second book in the back, I quoted Nietzsche, and I don't even know how to say that, but I think it's Nietzsche. And
Yep, you
he
get it right.
says, when you stare long enough into the abyss, the abyss will stare back
Yeah.
into you. When I wrote the book on the black-eyed kids and that whole phenomenon, I even wrote in the book, like, look, guys, this book took me so much longer than all my other ones. I know y'all are excited about it, but it was because I was afraid of what I was going to draw in. The more you research into a particular subject, I don't know, I guess it's the energy of it. I don't know exactly the schematics of it, but I do know that you will bring those energies to you. And I was terrified of bringing a BEK. They're one of the only entities I have no experience with, don't want any. They terrify me, but you will. And in fact, I talked in that book a lot about people who have just been obsessed with the occult, or just started really incessantly reading about the occult, about this, that, and the other. And they're suddenly same thing, shadow entities, getting visitations by, the old hag, night crawlers, whatever the case may be. It's like they say, if you look up in the sky for long enough, you're going to see a UFO. If you do it day in and day out, forever, for however long, you're going to see something up there. And it does. You bring the energy of it to you when you get too far deep into it.
Do you believe in that you can sit back and meditate and manifest these things as well? Because I've been reading a lot of stuff on meditation. I tried to astral project too. So I've done a lot of weird things in the last 5 years. I literally think I left my body at one time. But I talked to a lot of people. I don't know who the ufologist was, but they spoke about you can manifest the UFO sighting or alien visitation if you sit in your yard at night and meditate and look into the sky and ask them to come to you. I think there's a theory behind that. I don't know what the terminology is, but so people can do this, I think.
Yes,
Isn't
there's
that
even an
S5
app.
or something like that?
Something S5 or
There's
something.
an app.
Yeah,
It's like CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind.
there you
It's
go.
human. I have the app. I've had visitation before. I don't need the app, but I wanted to do like some group thing online eventually. But yeah, it's like the more specific you are in your head, like if you're calling them to you and you're thinking of a map, you got to think of exactly where you are on the map and project that. It's thought projection, speaking our life into existence. And I talk to my clients and my friends and my little gemstones about this all the time. The more you focus on, the negative, the more negative everything's going to seem and therefore become, right? So I always say like, oh my God, I'm so weird. And my mentor tells me, change the narrative. I am so awesome. I am so successful. And I think it's the same thing when it comes to putting that energy out there. It sounds kind of broad, but everything is energy. So we can transmute it and mutate it and send it and take it and reciprocate it. And I do believe that you can call them to you. And I don't know if I believe that just anyone can do it, though. I think you really have to either have some sort of previous connection, a DNA connection, even an energetic connection, or they have their eye on you or something. Or I think you have to have a certain kind of light energy, like maybe being a light, more of a light being, like an empath, or I don't know if I would say that like any person in my belief could go out and do it, but I think everybody's capable. You just have to have the right frame of mind and the right motivations.
So you'd have to have an open mind and not be negative Nelly or negative Nancy. And you can't be
Right.
expecting it either, I don't think.
My thing, I always say to everyone, you should expect like whatever you're trying to bring to you, including that, I would say like expect that whatever you want to happen is going to happen. Like you expect the mail to show up, right? But here's the thing. If you have negative intentions in your hearts, or if you're purposefully putting out negative intentions, guess what? You're going to draw negativity, which means you're going to draw negative extraterrestrial entities, and they do exist. Not all ETs are love, light, peace, save the planet. Some of them want our planet. Some of them want our souls. Some of them want our energy. Some of them just want us dead. There's all different beings, the Galactic Federation is a real thing. You know, you watch Star Wars, it's some of it's real stuff that was made, that was Hollywoodized.
Oh, I believe a lot of that to be true. You bringing up Hollywood, I guarantee you people that are making movies, like I always refer back to the Star Wars movie with Steven Spielberg, George Lucas, actually, you know, the creator. And I was reading where they actually got a lot of ideas from George Lucas being contacted by an extraterrestrial, how he got a lot of these ideas. And, you
Yes.
know, 20 years ago, I just said that's a bunch of malarkey, right? I mean, they're not believe, oh, this guy's just making this up. But today, I believe that a lot of people, I think a lot of movies in Hollywood today, or Hollyweird as they call it today, right,
Yeah.
is manifested or brought on because of real, actual events that occurred.
So Summer Side of Light said, Gemma, are there any of them that want to give us money? Well, not specifically, but they would give us the tools to be able to manifest the best version of ourselves, to be able to make that money. My long-term goal is to start a spiritual retreat at the beach and have all y'all come and get you spiritually aligned. That is my main goal for what I'm doing in my life and my business, my purpose. But think of the Predator movie, right? The Glimmer Man entity.
Yes.
That movie came out in the 80s.
Yep.
And the entity we're all seeing now is that exact entity. Somebody knew something. Here's the thing. I always ask this. Is it being seen more, or are we able to show it and report on it being seen more because of the internet? I don't think it's being seen more. I don't think it's getting bolder. I think it's always been there. It's always shown itself. But if I saw it here in northern New Jersey, BMR would never know about it. Shade Viking, Roger Blair, and nobody in here would ever know that I saw the Glimmer Man entity in the woods next to my house. Why? Because I never would have met y'all, because I'm here in New Jersey. There was no internet. There was no cell phones. There was no way back in the 70s and the 80s except the telephone. What am I going to do? Call random people in the phone book? So I don't think that it's getting bolder. I just believe it's always been there. And now we're just able to showcase it more and have these discussions, on a much deeper, more meaningful level now, because we're all connected the way we are.
And you did have an experience with the Glimmer Man, didn't you?
Yes, a very, very terrifying one. And I feel like if I write for Missing Persons Mysteries, I write most of their content now, but I have been for the past 4 years. And I think if I didn't know what the Glimmer Man or the Predator entity was going into that contact I had with it, I might have been, you guys would be discussing GEMMA JADE missing person from New Jersey. I seriously think if I wasn't aware of what it was beforehand, it would have kidnapped me and my son and did whatever to us.
So I'd love to talk about the Glimmer Man for a little bit, if that's okay. What do you think it is?
So I think there's several things that it could be. Definitely the one I encountered, I believe, was extraterrestrial. I do believe we have government, either humans, forces, entities. The government is doing something. They're also cloaking themselves to go and, I think, track these things. So I think some of the ones we're seeing are the government who are tracking the extraterrestrial ones. Now, I had contact through a meditation one time with a race of ETs. They were like very bird-like, and they were telling me how a lot of the people that are disappearing and being lured into the woods, and they're just like gone, poof, gone. They're going to like a new Earth where it's like they're given the opportunity, like you can stay here and assimilate, or you can go back there and die, because the only way that you can travel back to where you just were with your family in your time, in your dimension, they'll find your body. That's why sometimes the bodies are found, sometimes they're not. And that's just information I got from one race of beings. I don't know if they were liars or if they weren't. But with the Glimmer Man, yeah, I think it's several different things.
So I want to ask you about the whole mind speak phenomenon with the cryptids.
Mm-hmm.
My concern is that it's not what they're pretending to, or they're not what they say they are.
Yes.
Some of them, yeah, possibly. I don't know. I've never had that experience, but I know a lot of people that have. A lot of people that I consider dear friends, and I respect the hell out of. But it worries me, and I think I have a legitimate, right to be concerned
Sure.
because there's so many entities out there. I mean, paranormal 101, they're going to lie, spirits are going to lie to you.
And there are lots of mimics out there as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They obviously know what we're thinking about, what we want. An incident we had up out in the field one time was there was 5 of us. We all had experiences that were very, very close to us that would have either excited us or scared us. And it all happened simultaneously.
Yeah.
And so it's very concerning for me that and the only thing honestly the biggest 2 answers you get when you ask them how do you know it's Bigfoot or whatever is, well, they told me it was, or I just know. That scares me.
Well, and that's a very real and valid fear, of course. The thing with me, though, I personally don't worry about that too much because I used to, for about a year, I would go into people's houses, kind of like Dead Files deal, and they had a haunted house, and I would be like, this is what you have here. This is what you need to do to get rid of it, blah, 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 and I would do that. And I can see when something's presenting as something else. So they'd be like, we have this little kid here. I would look at the little kid for 3 seconds and be like, that's not a little kid. That's this, that, or the other. I can see the energy, just like with people. And I know this is really bizarre and a lot of people can't imagine it. So I'll look at you, and for the first 8 or 9 seconds, I'm not going to see you. I'm going to see your energy, who you really are. I call it the soul. A lot of people, don't believe it, whether you believe in it or not. That's what I see. So I literally see people from the inside out. And when things are really bad energetically around where I'm at, I will start to see a dirt film around everything, as if I'm wearing dirty glasses. It's the most bizarre thing. But for me, for the most part, I'm able to look at beings and see, is it presenting as something else? But I don't know if that's the case, if I would be able to do that with ETs, because I don't know how ETs work. Do you know what I'm saying? I know about spiritual beings, demons, for lack of a better word. I don't even like that term. And earthbound spirits, things like that. The only reason I got into cryptids is I accidentally channeled a Bigfoot when I was lost one day. And it helped me, and it showed itself in my mind's eye as a Bigfoot. Very, very soft, feminine voice. This gigantic monster of a being had a feminine voice, very soft, helped me get home. And that's where my interest started. But it's a very valid fear because we don't know. And there are people that believe that any spirit that contacts a human being is a devil trying to manipulate.
Right.
There are religions and there are people, and I can see where they're coming from. But for me, I'm pretty confident that what I'm experiencing, I can actually physically see. But I do definitely understand your concern there. Very valid.
A lot of things you say, again, resonates with me. And I only bring these up on the shows when somebody strikes me, where I get this vibe, because that's not so weird what you said about not seeing the person, but seeing the aura around them. Because I was always able to pick out people, and I knew their intentions. If they're a stranger standing in line at the mobile gas station, knew if they were nefarious or a good person. I just know that. Now everyone can say that. We all have that. We all have been in a store where we know someone's looking at you.
Everyone has that instinct. Sure.
Everyone has, and I think we're all born with that. But I think it's another level of things. When I interviewed people, I owned the bar for 13 years. I never once looked at their resume. I talked to them for in less than a minute. I knew whether or not they'd be a good employee. I just knew.
That's your ability.
And it all started for me, though, and Tex kind of knows this story. Some of the people maybe that follow me know the story. When I was 5 years old, Jimmy, he was on my block. I hated the kid. I told my mom and dad Jimmy was evil. Robbie, where'd you get that evil? You're 5 years old. Where'd you come up with such a word? I don't know, Ma. You're just jealous because he likes your brother better when you go out playing. I know, really, and Jimmy was in my neighborhood. I went to grade school with them, middle school. Then I started telling my friends, how come you don't like Jimmy? I said, Jimmy's a bad dude. Stay away from that kid. Made it to high school. We're playing soccer on the soccer field, and Jimmy and I are rolling around on the ground because, again, I never could get away from this evil kid in my mind. We're rolling on the ground, got in a tussle, and I pushed him away from me, and I had a sick feeling in my core. And I looked like a little girl running away from Jimmy. I said, Rob, why are you running from Jimmy, man? You look like a little, you know what, right? I'm like,
Weirdo.
yeah, okay, thank you. Yeah, better, yeah. So, but Rob, you always said never liked that kid, man. You're just so full of bunk, right? I went off to college. And again, my parents knew about Jimmy. I talk about Jimmy like once a year at least throughout my lifetime. Well, Rob, I got back from college. My mom and dad says to me, and my friends later, you were right about that Jimmy. I said, Jimmy, yeah. Now, what did he do? Is he in jail? They kind of laughed. Yeah, Jimmy's in jail, all right. I go, well, why? What did he do? He murdered his grandmother. And I
Yes,
knew
you knew.
since the age of 5, this guy was bad. And ever
You
since then,
saw that on his you saw that on his energy. That to me gets overwhelming sometimes. That's one of my big things. If I go into a restaurant to eat, I have to remember to shut it down. I will know that the waiter beats his girlfriend. I will know the guy behind us is cheating with this person. I will know everything about everybody. So I have to, quick story. I was in Party City one time and I was waiting for Steve Stockton to call me back because he was getting me a Halloween costume, and I wanted to see like which, because we're doing a Halloween special. And I went in, and my husband and my little guy waited in the car. And by the time they came in, I was in the corner of Party City, just going like this on the ground, and people were just looking at me. And my son's like, "Mommy's playing hide and seek." What happened was I got so overloaded by everyone's thoughts and everyone's energy and the loud music and the pulsing lights. And that was when I decided I needed to learn how to shut it down when I need to. Because otherwise I'll be in the grocery store and I'll be approached by 75 dead. And some of them get really angry when you don't want to communicate with them. Like, I've already talked to 15. I'm not giving this person a message. I'm not traveling to California to give your uncle a message. Like, they get pissed, they get angry. And I really had to learn to shut that down. And I'm still not that good at it, which is why I still don't really leave my house too often. Unfortunately, I am kind of homebound because of it. It's so overwhelming.
Man.
When did you turn that corner from, this is something that I don't know how to deal with and it's overwhelming, to really, really understanding how to control it? And I mean, I know you still have difficulty with it, but at some point you had to turn that corner and go, okay, I got to take control of this instead of letting it control me.
When I came out of addiction.
Okay.
For 5 years, I was in addiction, and I blame it a lot on my abilities and not understanding them. Having an Irish Catholic father who would call me, an artard and all these names and tell me I was, he didn't mean he didn't mean anything by it. That was just, to him, it was weird. And he'd call it my goofball stuff. So I would, once that happened though, I was like, okay, I can't use drugs and alcohol as a crutch anymore. I also, had a baby very surprisingly. And my youngest at that point was like 15. So I'm like, okay, something needs to change here. I'm going to have to focus inward, and I'm really going to have to seek people out who are going to be able to help me with this. And writing has been just a big help, and just studying from people who I kind of, aspire to be, that I trust, that I can see their energy is great, that they're honest. And then when I got on YouTube, I saw so many other people like me who are maybe not in addiction, but who are where I was 5 years ago, scared, not wanting to leave their house, afraid to open up to their partner, hiding, literally hiding in closets. And I wanted to make my channel about, for the most part, letting those people know you don't have to do that. You can take control of this, and you can become a kinder, better, more positive and abundant version of yourself while doing so. And that's my whole mission, man. That's like my whole mission statement for my channel. I talk about a lot of other stuff, but the work I do at its core is helping people become more aware of their spiritual abilities, showing them how to work with them, and helping them become more aligned with their purpose. I talk to them about their contract, their guides. I introduce them to their team. I do everything I can to make sure that people don't slip into that craziness that I slipped into, just trying to escape who I was. Because Irish Catholic father, I thought I was a demon. I thought I was possessed. I thought I was bad. And that shaped a lot of the horrible relationships I've had because I didn't think I was worthy of love. Like it goes like this whole big cycle of just learning that like I have this extra sensory ability. Some other people have it, some don't. And I've got to live with what I got, instead of being like poor, pitiful Gemma. I was like, all right, I got this. I'm going to take control. And I'm so glad I did.
Well, first off, I want to congratulate you on your 5-year sobriety.
Thank you.
You should be very proud of yourself.
I am. Thank you.
That's kind of, and when you say you want to help people and stuff, and that's really the driving force behind, what you do. It was the same thing for me when I started my channel. I wanted to help people that were having these experiences and these encounters and were traumatized by them. And because it can be very, very traumatizing with the cryptid side of things. The paranormal side, all of it, UFOs, all of it. Because it's not always a pleasant experience, and it is amazing to me the people that you meet, especially ones that come out of addiction, that realize how good of a person they actually are, and they become what they thought was happy at that point, they become truly happy, and joyful for the gift of life itself. And I think we take a lot of it for granted, especially the abilities like someone yourself has. And it's difficult, and it's tragic that when people have these abilities or they have these encounters, the first thing they're told is either they're crazy or they're lying.
It is horrific. And that's one of the things I want it to like stop. Like I always tell people, like, I don't know how I would live without it now. I love it. I'm never going to be quote unquote normal, but I'm my version of normal. And I want to help as many people as I can. It's a big deal because the veil, I know some people don't like when you say the veil is thinning. It's kind of a bad term, but the veil is thinning. There is spirit around us at all times. They're about 3 inches above, like their reality is 3 inches above ours. So wherever our ground is, our floor is there. That's why they always seem like they're floating. They're not floating. They're on their own ground. That's just where they happen to be in that dimension. Now, they're visiting more people are opening up. The collective consciousness is opening up. More people are, coming out of the matrix, so to speak, for the best way to put it. And it's happening more and more and more to where it's becoming more normal, maybe not to the extreme degree that I have them, but for a lot of people too, either come back with some kind of memory of a past life or understand from a very small age that the abilities like seeing spirit and communicating with them, it's okay. Like I always tell my clients, my friends, everybody, don't discount and ignore your kids when they say there's a monster in the closet or there's a monster in the bed. Go and check, because you'd be surprised. Listen to your kids, because that's why so many people now are so stigmatized against people like me and people that can do things that I can do and like communicating with spirit and telling the future with cards and all that, because we were screamed at and told, get back into bed. There's nothing in your dang bed. What's wrong with you? You're 6 years old. And that traumatizes us and makes us go, okay, this is really bad. And most of us can just shut it down. It's conditioned out of us. But now it's not as conditioned out. More people are opening up. They're activating. So it's, and spirit is coming through more and more because that veil is thinning, but it's not because there's an actual veil that's becoming thinner. It's because we as human beings are raising our vibration and frequency. So we're able to get closer to them faster and in a much different way.
I think I know we talk about the veil thinning, and it's one of those terms I wish we had something else, a different way to describe it. Like it's the same thing with when we talk about what we call the woo. I hate that term. I really do. But it's. I also think we're seeing a and we talked a little bit about this last night, the stigma that comes with all these experiences. I think we're seeing a change in that. It's more accepted. And I think a lot of it has to do with what I consider the worst and the best invention ever made, which was the internet.
Yeah.
It's like you were alluding to earlier. The world is smaller than it used to be because of the, available communication like we are. I mean, we're all across the country, just the three of us right now. Yeah. And we're sitting here having a conversation like we're face to face. When you can more readily share with people that are in the same circle or having the same circumstances that you are having happen to you, I think that's a lot of what has affected the stigma that goes along with all this stuff that we're experiencing.
Absolutely. My husband hates it. I'm not allowed to, well, I'm allowed to talk about it in front of him, but I probably will be criticized or mocked in some way. I just don't talk about it with him. He doesn't read my books. He doesn't watch my show. It kind of became a taboo subject in my own home. So can you imagine if I didn't have this community rallying around me? And I have my mom and some other family, but like in my own home, I respect the fact that he just doesn't want to hear about it. Okay, no problem. But if I didn't have this connection, would I end up going back to where I was 5.5 years ago? I don't know, because it can be a very lonely place when, you know something's standing behind someone and you want to say it, but you're like, well, it's just going to cause a fight. And then you just walk off and just let whatever happens. But I can go to I can name, my 5 best friends. None of them live in New Jersey and none of them live within driving distance, right? They're all over.
Right. And I've had people come up to me and I'll admit it. At first, it was kind of like, oh, okay,
Yeah.
But I've had numerous people come up to me, like at conferences and stuff. And what I like about the approach that most people have is they'll ask you if they can tell you something, and you're like, sure. You have somebody with you right now, or there's a light, behind you, or there's whatever, the case may be. Just a few years ago, you wouldn't see that happening.
No,
so
I got hit a couple
open
times
to share what they're actually seeing, and it happens more often than we think it does.
Yep. Yeah, I agree.
But it's just, it amazes me the gifts that people like you have. One of my best friends is Danielle Diva, and she has gifts much like yours. Even Krista and Brandy have their own gifts, and so does Monica. Now, the other side of that, I have friends like Jason McLean. He's very spiritual. He's very much a God-fearing man. One of the smartest men that I've ever known. I can't take him really into the field with me because he runs everything off. But it's and he don't have to do or say anything. It's just he is that strong in the faith that I mean, he's like a pot-bellied Superman when he walks into the.
My mom's house was haunted for a while, and she would always yell, "She's coming next week," whenever I was coming to visit, because the activity would ramp up as she prepared for my visit. Because once I got there, whatever was there knew that I was going to drive it out. I had driven these things out of her home so many times, and then I'd leave for a while. She wouldn't keep up the protective mechanisms, and they'd get back in. And then they would start bothering her and harassing her, and she would just yell, "She's coming next week. Do your best," And I get that. When I'm trained now to use a Ouija board properly, but anytime I put my fingers on the planchette, it goes, goodbye. The Ouija board will not talk to me. It will not communicate with me at all, because I think it knows that I would be onto whatever lies it's trying to tell. And mostly they do. That is a horror. Like, I just would recommend nobody use those unless you're trained. And it took me almost 3 years to learn how to properly protect myself from that. So,
and I can't believe that they're still set. And and I said this last night. Here's my thing about Ouija boards. They're still selling them as toys.
yes, for kids.
You're right. And I think that I think it's a way to get people involved in this stuff while they don't know what they're doing at a very young age, because I think something's out there behind the scenes with the puppet strings.
Listen, I say that all the time. If you remember, someone just brought up the spiritualist movement. Can you imagine throughout the history of mankind, every single group of girls who went into the woods to hold a fun seance or use the Ouija board over centuries, over millennia, however long you believe we were here, what that did, like the portals it created, the creatures, the entities it opened up doors for. That is why we're having the issues we're having now. I'm 100% convinced. Kids playing with a Ouija board as a game, all of these accidental encounters and openings. That's why there's so many portals in the woods. If you think about it, you want to go, you want to light some candles, let's have fun. You are actually opening up doors to other dimensions. The things coming through may leave you alone, but they're going to wreak havoc and chaos in the world. And I do fully believe that we have to, if we have kids that have abilities or show an interest in the occult, it may sound extreme, but when you see what's going on, you really pay attention. It's not. Start talking to them about it, about being responsible in that ability. I'm not going to be summoning up any demons or devils, but I surely can if I wanted to. I'm not going to be cursing people, but I know how. Could you imagine if I was going to use that irresponsibly, how much trouble it would cause? Mm-hmm. We have to stop ignoring what our kids say and their interests in this, because it does have a ripple effects that you're never going to see.
Well,
and too, with really quick,
you're exactly right with the accidental openings and everything, and that goes right back to what I was talking about. The Ouija board, especially being sold to young people. They don't know what they're doing. Yeah. They don't know how to close these things out. And it's very easy for something dark to get their hooks in.
For sure.
Too, and even with the Ouija board, okay, Milton Bradley or whoever, Hasbro, I don't know who makes it. I never had one. But don't you think, too, though, okay, we're the toy company, but don't you think, though, if you have, especially these kids that are really into such things and they've seen it on the internet, don't you think the Ouija board could be the same thing as me going out in the middle of the woods with chalk and drawing a circle and a pentagram with a bunch of buddies and try to summon up something? Is that kind of the same thing? You don't necessarily need the cardboard and what do you call that little device they use?
The planchette. Right? Well, planchette. I mean, yes and no, because you would have a chance. Even with abilities, if I didn't know how to use my abilities and I went out and into the woods with, doing what you just said, lighting candles or whatever, I have a chance of bringing something through, for better, for worse.
Right.
If I have the Ouija board, it's something is coming through, whether it communicates with you or not, it's coming through. And it's like opening your door. And I'm from Paterson, New Jersey, which is like a pretty violent, high crime, drug area. I don't live there now, but it's where I was born and raised. And it's like going someplace like that and opening your door and saying, come on in, stay as long as you want. And then forgetting that people are in your house for a couple of decades. That is exactly what it's like. But it's like going into the woods. Yeah, there's a chance that you can bring something out. And if you're studying it on the internet, a big chance. But with the Ouija board, it is definite. You are bringing something through. A lot of the time there are spirits. I don't know how this happens because I don't think the toy company is doing it, but who knows? A lot of the boards I've seen have had a spirit or spirits attached to the board, which is strange because the board is manufactured in a factory. It's factory made.
Right.
It's just something about the intention. You're going to speak to spirit with this board. And then some negative entities like, ooh, yes. And little kid's going to have it. That's mine. And, you know, it's the intention, and that goes to show you even more the intention behind the things we do, the things we create, even the things we say have so much more power than we realize. Just saying this board is a talking spirit board has now made it so that I would say 99% of them have their own negative entity attached to it, not to mention everything that's coming and going. Because the intention is to bring spirit through. That is how we manifest our reality, through words and thought.
So really our intentions to play really goes back to your own intentions. Whatever your intention is, whether you have a Ouija board or chalk, drawing a circle in your basement, it's what you are trying to manifest, and your intent, you want to bring on some sort of, whether it's good or bad, right?
Yes.
And if you're concentrating on it long enough, you might go days and weeks without getting anything. But if you are very conscientious, I should say, and these spirits know what you're doing, you're probably going to break through eventually. And you maybe
plant
have
that
gifts,
seed.
not gifts.
Yeah, you plant that seed that can come back to haunt you or come back for the better 10, 15 years ago. There are things that are happening in my life right now that I'm like, what the F? Like, why am I having to deal with this? Like, after everything, I'm like, why this? And I'm thinking, well, I don't know what seeds I planted 6 years ago, 7 years ago, 8 years ago. It must be something that I'm in this particular situation, especially one area where I'm just constantly like, oh, like, come on, like, this is the last little thing. And, you know, it's about learning lessons too, but also like, no, spirits cannot read our minds, but you got to remember, like the devil, demons, even your spirit guides, they've been here for eternity. So it's not that they read our minds, it's that they can accurately deduce our next move because they've been studying and around humans for so long. They've been watching us and stalking us and possessing us and luring us and controlling us and all these things for so long. They cannot read our minds. A lot of people do think they cannot, but they can make an assumption based on, you know, the fact that our energy and the fact that they know humans so well. They will know our next moves like 10 steps ahead of what we know, not because they can read our minds, but because they're smart. They're not stupid.
We're a little more than halfway through the show. This always break out the public service announcement for everybody that we do. Gemma Jade's, the links are all in the description of this. All her books. I want to talk about one or two of your books too, by the way, because I know we're rambling all over. Great show, fantastic show. Gemma Jade, simply called Gemma Jade on YouTube. Subscribe over there. All her links to her books I've found on Amazon or in this show, as I said. If you're new here, please subscribe to Bigfoot Mr. Rob, Texas Front Porch, The Blondes and the Booze Paranormal Podcast. Thanks. And thank you to Tex for gifting 10 BMR Pirates. You too can become a BMR Pirate. All you need to do is join. Super Chat's open. Thanks for coming on in. And for the new people, again, subscribe. And I'm getting better at that, Tex.
You are. I'm impressed.
Thank you. Even more impressive is what Gemma brings to the table today. I did want to ask you something.
Great segue.
I did want to ask you something. And I got to watch how I say certain things sometimes when I refer to weak-minded individuals. And I'm not saying, and this is not nothing about you, Gemma, in general. I find a lot of people that maybe have alcohol problems, drug problems, or they're just generally down and outers, don't have any substances at all, but their mind, when I say weak-minded, just, I guess that would be a low vibration, or would that be high vibration?
Lower vibrating, and I call them sleepers.
Okay, because you always see the movie about the hobo in the alley with a wine bottle, and a demon walks into him. You know, that's kind of where I'm going with this.
Yeah,
Are those
I hear you.
types of folks more susceptible to having something demonic take them over versus someone like yourself or Tex, which we have our stuff together, so to speak, now today in the
I wouldn't say more susceptible to the demonic, though it could be, but they are more susceptible to negative entities and forces and spirits that feed off of that lower vibration. So, for example, when I was in addiction, I was vibrating very low. It didn't matter how much light I had or what a good person I was vibrating in a low frequency. So I would attract low frequency people, and I would also attract low frequency entities. A lot of people I know, my own father included, have these things called addiction demons attached to them. And I call it demon, but it's not actually a demon. It's just this thing that feeds off of the addiction. And it kind of propels you further into it. I'm sure I had some too. So yes, they are much more susceptible because they are focused on the negative, right? Oh man, I can't get a job. I can't get off whatever this is. I can't get over the fact my wife left me. I can't. It's really true that the more you say you can't, the more you won't be able to. It's really about switching your mindset. And I know that it is a very simplistic explanation for it, but it really is about thinking of vibrating higher, thinking about your ultimate goal and feeling the feelings of that goal and turning it around. The more you're focused on the negative, you will only see the negative, and then it'll seem like everything's only negative. But if you can do that, you can also do that positive. You can only focus on the positive, start to see just the positive, and then it's going to be everything's positive. But it's really hard to do, especially when you're in something like, addiction or homelessness.
I've always told people, I've always issued this challenge. Go 2 weeks. Don't watch the news.
I never watch the news.
I don't either.
I can't.
What's the news?
I can't. I get visits.
Well, you get beat over the head with negativity. That's unfortunately, that's most of what's out there. And I have this theory of I call it acute possession. And hey, you finally got the right logo up there. Oh no, there you go. Get the other one up there. But I think these negative entities or even demonic entities will take hold of. They wait to get us at a low point, get their hooks in, and get their foot in the door. And I think it happens a lot with, you hear about these women that kill their children, and the postpartum depression, I think, is such a low point and such a weak point spiritually and emotionally that it leaves these women open to this.
Yes.
And I fully believe that these entities will jump in, influence these people to do these horrible things, then jump back out and watch and enjoy the destruction of all these people's lives.
They feed off of it. And there's also dark spirits. We don't really have time to go into it now, but there's something I talk about a lot called dark spirits. And for the most part, we are light beings. Whatever you believe in heaven or hell, I'm not making any kind of religious statement here, but I'm just going to say what I know as a medium who has spoken to spirit and my guides, what they've told me. So we all go to the other side, I call it heaven. So we all go to heaven. It's regardless, because a lot of the time our bad decisions, our negative choices are contracted for us to learn a lesson or something major, big, huge in the world that we do and become infamous for, whatever. Think of whoever you're going to think of that was a horrible person that committed atrocities. That person was contracted to do so that change can be brought in. How are you then going to be punished for being contracted in spirit, signed by either the creator, the universe, whatever you think is in control? That doesn't work. But there are people who have strayed so far from the light, serial killers, you name it. There weren't as many way back when. There are more and more all the time. These are people who have no light left. They have no guides. They have no angels. They have no connection to the collective. They have no connection to source. And when they pass, they're immediately reborn with no soul contract, no direction, until, whether it takes dozens of years, thousands of years, or millennia, they're able to bring themselves back to the light while living, or one of their old team's guide or ancestors can grab them quickly before they're reborn. This is happening more and more. And these are the people with literally no souls wandering around. So if it's not what you just said, which definitely happens a lot of the time, but that won't stand up in court, right? We're not quite there yet.
Right.
But it's also there really are people that do not have souls, that will just be immediately reborn. They're directionless, they're purposeless, but because they have that darkness on their side, darkness, you don't need to have faith for the darkness to work for you. You just have to have no soul, right? So anything you want, boom, they're usually very powerful. And that's why. The selling of your soul isn't like, I'm giving you my soul, demon. It's saying, okay, I have no soul, but you can control me for however long I have no soul, forever. and I'll just do endless lifetimes serving you, but I'll have power and money or whatever it is they want while we're doing this exchange.
If you were to conjure up the devil and make a contract with the devil for fame, fortune, whatever it is you want, first of all, do you believe in that? And secondly, when that contract ends, are you forever taken over by the devil and continually live in the fiery pit, as they say?
From my experience, that's what I can speak of. I do believe in that, but hell's not for humanity. We don't go there. I know some people have had NDEs where they believe that they went to hell. I just believe hell is a separation. For me, being a religious person, I would say from God, but some people from the universe, from whatever. I'm trying to be PC, but so hell wasn't for humanity. We don't go there. But if there's a contract drawn up, say, yes, I do very much believe in that. But again, I think it's more of I'm going to commit atrocities. I'm going to be a horrible person. I'm going to hurt people. You feed off of that and then give me what I want and need, because the people are soulless. Wherever the soul goes into the darkness, maybe people do sell their souls and sign their souls over so that they cannot go to the other side, to heaven, into spirit, to rest like we're supposed to after an incarnation. So now they're just lifetime after lifetime after lifetime. Yes, they'll be wealthy, powerful, but they'll be horrible human beings, very low vibrating. They never get that spiritual rest for who knows how long, while the demon or the devil or whatever you want to call it feeds off of them lifetime after lifetime. And then it's harder and harder for them to get back to the light, back to the other side, to get the guides and the connection to the light again. So it's complicated, but it's really not. We don't go to hell. It just doesn't happen. I know that's an inflammatory statement, and I don't mean to offend anyone's beliefs. I really don't. That's just my experience, what I have grown up listening to from my own spirit guides and team guys. So I mean, no offense, and you're certainly free to believe whatever you want.
No, yeah, and you can say what you like. I mean, this is a talk show, and everybody comes on my show free to say what your beliefs are, right? People can take it or leave it, but that's why we do what we do. So I'm going to ask you this. I've never asked anybody this on a show. What about do you believe, again, certainly you haven't experienced this yet. You're still living with us. But what about these folks that are reincarnated? Or what about these people that say that when they've had a death experience and they were seeing the light, but they were asked, this is what I've heard from several people, that they have a choice to go to the light, go to the darkness, why you would pick that, I don't know, or go somewhere else, a different realm, maybe come back as a deer, a butterfly, or elemental. I mean, what's your thoughts on all that stuff? Because people believe in these things that actually happens, and people have claimed that they have had a choice upon death. You heard anything similar?
Yes, it would be very interesting. I would love to talk to some of these people, because I've never heard of anyone that has experienced the choice. There is a choice. This is only one Earth in one universe, right? So there are many just like this with little differences. There are all of these other dimensions around us, and there are other planets, other beings, other entities. Now, while we can't come back as the Fae, right, because they're separate spiritual beings, we can, to the best of my knowledge, come back as extraterrestrial. We come to this Earth in particular, whatever Earth you choose to come to or are sent to learn. So our soul can learn and grow and become eventually I forgot what it's called, a master, something master. And that's what we're here for. That's why it's painful. This is the only place where we don't have recall of past and future lives. You remember, time is not linear. So your last life could have taken place in the year 5000. We come to the time and place that we need to be for our soul to learn the most and grow the most. So yes, that's so interesting. I've never heard of anyone that was given the choice, because I thought that happened far after the passing. But to go to the darkness might just be to go somewhere where it's much lower vibrational than it is here on Earth, even though I hear from a lot of spirit, Earth is like the worst of the worst, because we need to learn and grow. And I'll tell you what, these recurring themes, say for instance, you're constantly, your whole life, you're in like not good romantic relationships, horrible romantic relationships, but everything else going great for you. That's a recurring theme probably from lifetimes. And if you can break that cycle by learning about yourself, learning why you do, like, the therapy stuff, whether you're in therapy or not, it's learning those hard lessons about yourself and being able to look inward. Then you're growing, then you're changing. And guess what? You're going to be able to find that love you've always been looking for in the case of romantic love. And in your next lifetime, you are not going to have to deal with that stuff anymore, should you choose to come here. It'll be a new thing, a new recurring theme, a new lesson. We're breaking ancestral and generational curses right now, things our ancestors have done and put on us, whether it's verbally or energetically, or just like the same thing, the cycles of abuse, the cycles of addiction, the cycles of violence, the cycles of XYZ. Breaking those now by becoming more spiritually aware, more higher vibrating, and more conscious of the collective. Every video I end it with, be kind to each other. It doesn't cost anything. Be kind to yourselves. That's it. Love is the key. And at the end of the day, love is the only thing that matters. And it's the only thing you can take with you.
Summer Side of Life brought something up, and I don't know about all this, but I keep seeing people refer to it. They asked, Gemma, do you find that wireless 5G causes you issues?
No, I don't find. You know what, though? It could be the 5G, because I was just saying recently in a few of my live streams that the past maybe year, 2 years, I've been hearing this very low hum. And it does sometimes give me headaches, or I wake up with eye pain. And I never considered that it could be, I don't know, when 5G, I'm not technologically good with stuff, guys, but whenever that came in, but I do notice that there are certain places I'm at certain times where I do hear something, and someone has suggested that that's what it is that I'm picking up on.
I know Rob has an interesting story about the whole cell towers and and part of the highway where he lives.
Oh yeah, really briefly, there's and I gotta make mention of this. This freeway drives through a pretty affluent part of town. Okay, and I'm just throwing it out there because what I discovered, or what I read reports on, they put up. I drove down here some time ago, maybe a couple of years ago, and I seen this big Christmas tree, big huge tree. I said, and there was a lot of trees surrounding it, but it was it just towered over the rest, right? And speaking of tower, I find out later that it was a cell tower. Okay, not really that strange. They dressed it up to make it look cool. I thought that's a great idea. But you know what? On this section of the freeway where this tower camouflage as a Christmas tree was, they noticed in Michigan, and we have Detroit here, everybody. Okay, we've got the freeways here where there's random shootings, and there's people stopping their cars and getting in fights on the freeway. It does happen in Detroit all the time, but in this section of town, number one in the state of Michigan for shootings, road rage, you name it, people going crazy. But you wouldn't think that just because people have money, you'd think they'd be, but sometimes people with money are just as bad as people without money. We all know this. But they were doing a study that I was reading that, the cell tower they were putting off frequencies, vibrations to the road where they were trying to alter, get this, like a psyop, trying to alter your brain thoughts. And they could turn this on and create mind control in these areas of the freeway.
I believe that.
And every time it was on, people went crazy.
I absolutely believe that, infrasound and that stuff's been around forever. And I'm not a conspiratorial person. Again, I don't watch the news ever, but I believe that they experiment on us all the time with frequencies, and some of us can hear and some of us can't. It's like dog whistling, right? It just really depends on your ability, your frequency. I do a lot of sound healing on myself for a lot of the trauma I went through. And it's like binaural beats and things like that. And I do believe sound can really affect us. Just think about it this way. When you're upset and you listen to music, if you're listening to sad music, you get more upset. Or you can be upset and listen to a song that makes you so happy. Or the music can change your whole mood. That's sound. That's frequency. That's affecting you and literally changing your emotional vibration. So yeah, absolutely. Frequency sound can have huge effects on us. particularly emotionally, and who knows what else.
Well, I know we went through with my son when he was a young teenager. He got into, oh, wow, thank you, Ginger. 5 more pirates. Arr.
Thank you, mateys. Thank you to Ginger.
We went through luckily a short phase of where he was into this very hardcore, angry rock music. And I'm an '80s rocker. I mean, it's from back in the day. But this was different. This was the, that type of thing. And man, he was having some anger issues, short temper, the whole 9 yards. His grades was slipping and everything. And once we got him off of that, totally flipped. I mean, 180. So yeah,
absolutely. Sound and frequency can affect us in, again, so many different ways. And I believe it can be really healing too. Like when this stream is done, I'll go and do 20 minutes of intense yoga, and I'll have the yoga on the screen, but I'll have in my earbuds, I will have this app that I have that plays all of these sounds for chakra alignment, just to kind of get myself in. My son has a 4-day weekend. I got to gear up for that. And I do that energetically with sound. I believe sound can be so healing, but it can also be very devastating. They say that if you play loud music while you're driving, you are like something like 25 times more likely to drive fast.
I believe that for sure.
Do you ever turn down the radio so you can see where you're going?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It has nothing to do with anything.
No,
because it allows you to concentrate on stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, it does. I want to get into some too, because this has been a fantastic show. And Gemma, for those that don't know, is an author, successful author, many books on Amazon. And I think it was funny, last week we were talking. You said, "Oh, cool! I think my newest book just got released. If you'd like, I'd like to have you share a little bit of your books with our audience, so they can and all the links, of course, again in the show. So you just had a new release come out, and or you could talk about that, or maybe your prior book, if you like, because I know they're doing pretty well."
So I'll just name the books because I do have a few, and then I'll talk about quickly the most recent one. So I had Missing the Fae Theory, which is my theory of how the fairies have a lot to do with the missing and vanished in the woods, wilderness areas specifically. I had Encounters with Evil, 101 True and Terrifying Stories, some from my life as a medium, some famous cases like Amityville, where I just, stuck to the facts and other people's encounters. Shadow Entities, Sleep Paralysis, and Beyond, where I talked about shadow entities, the jinn, where they come from, what connection sleep paralysis has to it, my own encounters, etc. Then I had my biggest book to date, Danger at Your Door, Terrifying Encounters with Black-Eyed Kids, where I really researched into that. I covered so many different theories. I talked about my own opinions, my own observations. I went so deep into the research. It took me almost 2 years to write it. I also have some encounters in there. People were so obsessed with the encounters that I released a companion book called Midnight Visitors, which is only encounters with the Black-Eyed Kids. Campfire Stories Volumes 1 and 2 were encounters in the woods that people sent into me about random things they encountered in the woods. My most recent 2, so it's Gone, Mysterious Disappearances. Volume 1 went bestseller. Volume 2 was released like 3 days ago. We're not quite there yet. I'm hoping to get there. And I do have a copy here. Gone, Mysterious Disappearances, Volume 2. So I didn't just write about the disappearances. Okay, guys, this is people, whether in the woods, on in front of people, public streets, wherever they were, real cases of people who vanished in the blink of an eye without a trace, were never seen or heard from again. There are a few I put in there where people did come back, but they had crazy, strange stories to tell. The reason I wanted to do these books was not to jump on the bandwagon of all of these mysterious disappearances, right? They interest me. I realized that nobody was talking about the possible supernatural, paranormal, cryptozoological, extraterrestrial elements that more than likely have to do with a lot of these disappearances, right? Eric Lewis is mountain climbing 13,900 feet up in the air. He's third in line from 2 friends. He's there 1 second, gone the next, body never found. He didn't fall. There are no footprints. Where did he go? Like, we need to talk about this. And I put in an introduction, telling the families and the loved ones that I'm not trying to add to their pain. I'm not trying to capitalize on. We need to talk about this. Little kids who are berry picking or doing whatever with their parents, and their parents sneeze and look over and the kid's gone, never to be seen or heard from again. We need to talk about the paranormal and the supernatural aspects of it. And I got visits from a lot of these people while I was doing this book. And it was very hard for me not to put down what they told me, right? And to just keep it in theory and opinion and just speculate on the things that I have not seen anyone else speculating on. People are scared that they're going to be seen as opportunistic. I don't make a ton of money off my books. I wanted to just put the word out there. Like, guys, we need to start bringing more of these types of conversations to disappearances like this, and we might actually get somewhere in solving them, or at least getting a basic understanding of why it's continuously, constantly, and consistently happening all over the world.
You know, and we've talked about, it's interesting because we've actually talked about that on the show, that these, you know, the whole 411 phenomenon. There's no way it's one thing that is
Right.
It is a smorgasbord of stuff that's responsible for this phenomenon going on.
Absolutely.
And wow, thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.
It's like you were saying, the ones that are just gone in the blink of an eye. There's no evidence of where they went, what happened, or anything. I mean, are we talking portholes here? You know,
could be.
It's there is a human element that is also partially responsible.
I believe it's so many different things. Right?
Exactly.
But that's what I wanted to, like, that's why I brought these books to the forefront, because it's not one thing. It's so many different things. And yeah, sometimes it is that somebody was abducted or somebody was killed as a serial killer. But the cases in these books, guys, trust me, I'm already working on volume 3. There is no possible explanation other than something crazy here happened. Something crazy, something out of the normal realm of a police investigation happened here.
Right. Well, and and that just goes back to what, on the cryptid side of things, what we hear about these, big cat attacks, these wild dog attacks, and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And the math just don't add up. There's a case that I talk about quite a bit over in Lipan, Texas, where this guy walked through the woods to go to take a shortcut to work every day. And he went missing, and they found him, and he was tossed over in the brush. His throat was ripped out, and he had scratches on the front of his body. The small town didn't have a coroner at the time, so the justice of the peace showed up with the sheriff's deputy and also the game warden and the civilian contracted tracker showed up. And this is in a paper. I was shocked that they put this in the paper. They screwed up. I think it's one of the few times that they screwed up and let some information slip, because they said that when they got there, the sheriff's deputy and the justice of the peace said, "Oh, it's a big cat." The game warden and the tracker said no. They disagreed with it. They said, no, there's no sign of a big cat. This is not how a big cat attacks. And there's no sign of one in the area. But they never said what it might be.
Right. They're just going to say whatever they think the public's going to jump on.
And, of course, no autopsy. The body was cremated very quickly, that type of thing. And it's very hush-hush. So those type of things we've got going on. There's no doubt that these are not wild dog attacks or even domesticated dog attacks that suddenly go crazy, like the one up in Missouri that took place that the girls talk about. They blamed it on, I believe it was a Mastiff and a German Shepherd.
Nonsensical.
Yeah. It was an Amazon driver that got tore to pieces and partially fed on, that when the cops showed up, they had to break into the house to where these dogs lived and shot the dogs because they said they acted aggressive. Well, no kidding. You just broke into their home. That's what they're supposed to do. But they didn't have the dogs weren't bloody. They didn't have a speck of blood on them or
No.
nothing.
And they're
And they
not going to
blamed it
be.
on those dogs. There's no
They
way.
were handy,
Mhm.
culprits. They were the
Yep,
fall guy.
scapegoat.
It's horrible. Scapegoat. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
Yeah. But we see this a lot with these cases that they try to explain away. Like I think it was either in Kentucky or Tennessee. I never can get that right. I'm sorry, folks. But the 12-year-old kid that was killed and dragged a couple of 100 yards up a hill, and when they investigated, all they came out with was an unknown canine. Okay, I have a problem with that because I can send DNA from my mutt dog to a place and they can tell me every
Yes.
breed that's involved in that dog. And you can't tell me, you're telling me this is an unknown canine? That is another slip.
They do it too. Yeah, they do it too, like with the college kids that are drowning, right? So they're saying, oh, well, it's a probable drowning. So this person's been missing for 80 days. They've only been in the water for 25. Probably drowned. That's the end of the case.
Right. No, and
where were they for the other 60-something days?
Exactly.
What do you mean probably drowned? Did they drown or did they not drown? I mean, and these are actual, like, one of them literally said probable drowning was the official cause of death.
Yeah.
Can you imagine I have a 24-year-old son. Could you imagine a mother or even being a parent or a grandparent and being like, that's your closure right there. No explanation where the kid was the other 50, 60 days. No explanation of any of one of them had hair in his hands that wasn't his.
Right.
Some kind of hair or fur or something. They never explained that. Just, he probably drowned. He was drunk.
Well, and most of them don't have water in their lungs.
Right. That's the other thing. None of it points to the person having been drowned. Right. A lot of them were not seen intoxicated, and that's a whole other rabbit hole right there.
Oh yeah, my son lives in Austin, and he was aware of those going in around there. And the thing about these victims is they're not what people are referred to as the less dead now. The prostitutes and the homeless and everything like that. Yep. These are either very educated or very athletic people, and that are being targeted. And it's amazing that this stuff is being just written off, like you said, probably drowning.
Like nothing. Yeah. And there's no closure for the parents, but nobody wants to listen. They look like crazy parents, crazy loved ones. So
speaking of crazy parents, Gemma's got to go pick her son up.
Yeah. I didn't know how long this was going to be. I never asked.
No, well, we go 90 minutes. We have 7 minutes left.
Okay,
if you got to pick up your son, that's fine. I'll ask you one question, then you can remarket your brand again for everybody. How come and this is from what I've read in different books and seen on shows, why is the last person in line? And this is not to be funny, everybody. How come the last person on the trail is always the one that seems to disappear?
I was filming my set. I release 2 pre-recordeds every Monday, one at 11, one at 12. And I was just talking about this today in my pre-recorded, because think about it. The people in front of you are less likely, if they're behind you, they're going to see. If they're in front of you, they're less likely to turn around and see what you're doing. If you're very, like, if you're being shot up, if you're being pulled down, if you're being pulled out, whatever's happening to you is happening so fast. There's really no sound. There's no sign of any movement. So they're not even going to catch it in their periphery. They're going to be talking. They're going to be looking around. If they're behind you, obviously they're going to see you. But it does happen mostly to people in front as well when turning bends. So if there's 2 people walking, the third person turns a bend, within a second and a half, they're gone. Yeah. Gone completely because they turn that bend. I've never been camping in my life, but I always wanted to go. And then once I got into this research, I was like,
I
Uh,
just out of the woods. I
I'm going to
think.
try to get a bunch of people from my channel, like my subscribers and everybody together to go to the Pine Barrens to do like a Jersey Devil hunt and a big spirit
Yes,
ball. And
that's
they
a
have
spooky
cabins
place.
there. Yeah, I thought it'd be really cool. And then I can go camping, but not have to go alone. And we can live stream most of it. So if anything happens to any of us, we have it live just for
And
our own protection.
I think that's a great idea. I love to do that, and with a group of people, and make sure I'm in the middle. And one other quick thing before we let you go is you always find that the person, a lot of not 100% folks. What's your thought on the person that goes missing? They're a 411 person, and their clothes are a lot of times found folded neatly on a rock along the river bend. I mean, that just seems to be something that's a commonality. I'm big on data, like Bigfoot crossing the road. Yeah, it's boring, but it's gotta be
Yeah.
documented.
I mean, yeah.
And so with this folding of the clothes, what's your thoughts briefly on that? I know we only got about 4 minutes.
Yeah. So I have a couple of things, but the one thing in the first volume of Gone, I talked about Matthew Pendergrast, who wrote that he was going to live in the woods with the moon elves. And the moon elves, I'll say one thing about them to keep it brief. They don't like laziness. They don't like mess. So I believe they told him, leave your clothes there for someone to find so your parents can have at least some kind of closure. And when he threw them, they said, hey, fold those. No kidding. I really do think that's what happened. I also think that there's something with wherever they're going, whether it be portals or outer space or whatever. I know a lot of extraterrestrial species can't like breathe our air. That's why a lot of them come in the form of shadow, or they come, looking like robots because they have. So maybe it's something to do with germs or the dirt from the woods. If a lot of the time it's just sneakers that are left behind, I do think it's maybe something on our clothing, in our clothing. Maybe they're washing us down with something. I mean, I really don't know, but there has to be a connection between the clothes. Why do they need us nude if we're just going through a portal? So maybe it's that there's something in our clothing or on our clothing, biological or just from us, that cannot pass through whatever this is. With the shoes, I will say I heard an interesting theory. Imagine if something is pulling you and you're trying to hold on for dear life and they're pulling and pulling, your shoes are going to be pulled off.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yep.
So I also thought, well, my mom actually told me that one. So,
Well, Gemma, we'll let you go. It's been a great show. Really quick, if you want to verbalize, I know you got to pick up your son. If you want to verbalize where we can find you, all the links, by the way, is in the show. Everybody, if you're just joining now, you got to watch the replay because it is fantastic.
Yeah. Thank you. So I'm on Gemma Jade YouTube. It's just my name. There are a couple Gemma Jades, but you'll see my picture there. And so I mentioned all of my books. My newest one, right now I'm trying to get its #1, particularly on Kindle. It's $4.99. It's included in Kindle Unlimited. It's included with your Audible subscription. And it's $9.99 for the paperback. Gone, Mysterious Disappearances, Volume 2. Gemma Jade Paranormal @gmail.com is my email. And that's really it, guys. That's kind of what I do. Friday nights at 7:15 p.m. Eastern on my channel, I do a live stream for several hours where I pull one oracle card for anyone who comes in. I'll connect with your team. You can donate or not donate. Obviously, I prefer donations, but I do not send you away if you can't donate. And it's a great chat, and you'll get a card anyway. And that's it. That's just kind of what I do. So check out my channel and my books if you can.
That was awesome. Thank you so much. And really quickly, too, before Tex speaks, thanks to Tex for gifting 10 pirates. Ginger gifted 5 pirates, and Keith gave a nice super chat. I do appreciate that, and thank you for that.
I was just going to mention Sunday she's going to be on Infamous Minds with me and Danielle. So
yes, I am.
Yeah.
Yes. So, well, we got double dose.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you and I talked about that backstage because I'm really excited. Miss Pixie, Paranormal Pixie, does a live stream on my channel twice a month. Tonight is that night at 8 p.m. Eastern. She will be on with Living Paranormally with Paranormal Pixie on my channel. So
awesome. Sweet.
Love Thanks to everybody. Pixie. Yeah, oh yeah, Pixie. Love Pixie. Pixie's Pixie's she's a proud pirate member.
Yes. She's Pixie. So wonderful. Yes.
She's awesome. I love Pixie. She was on my show before too. Tex and I believe it was. Yeah, I think you're with me, Tex. But anyways, thank you, Gemma. Thanks for everyone coming in.
Guys.
If you're new, subscribe to Gemma, subscribe to Tex, Rob, and the Blondes. We appreciate that. We thank you. Until next time. For Gemma, for Tex, we're out.